everyone, I'm Gemma from Concrete Gems Crochet, and today I want to show you how to make these lovely slipper socks. So they're asymmetrical, so one side is higher than the other, which makes it easy to get your foot into. They fit probably most women. If you want to adjust it, there are instructions in the notes on how to adjust the pattern slightly. So it's made up of granny squares, which are normal granny squares, except they've got a spike stitch in them, which just makes the holes a bit smaller, so your feet stay nice and cozy. For these ones I used Tweed Delight by Hobby, which is a worsted weight yarn, a number category 4 yarn. So it's a really lovely 85% wool yarn, and I really like tweed anyway, so it's quite a nice one to use. However, you can use any worsted weight yarn from your stash. You need about 1 skein, so this was a 50 gram ball, so that worked fine for 2 slippers. So today I'm going to use this yarn, which is from the beloved Aldi. If you have an Aldi near you, you can sometimes get some cheap yarn. So this is also a category 4 yarn. It's quite a nice variegated yarn, and it works up like that. So that is what we're aiming for today. So what you need to do is you need to get some yarn and a hook. So I'm using a 5mm hook, which I used for both yarns, both the category 4 yarns that I've got. But you'll need to make a swatch of making one of these motifs, which I'll show you how to make in a moment, and just see if it is the right size. So one of these squares needs to be 4 inches across both ways. And if it is, then you're good to go. Obviously, if your feet are bigger, so this is for a standard women's UK size 4 to 7, which is US 6 to 9 and EU 37 to 40. If you are a different size foot, if you want to make it larger, you can add an extra round of single crochet all the way around, and that will make it significantly larger. So that will easily fit a large man's foot, a larger lady's foot. If you want to make them smaller, you could try just doing 2 rounds, but that would make it a lot smaller, so that would be kind of a child's size. So shall we get started and make these squares? So I'll get rid of those for a minute. So you're going to need to make 6 of these granny squares per slipper, so 12 for a pair of slippers. And you also need to make 1 granny triangle, which I will also show you how to make in a moment. So we're going to start with the square, and I'm going to make a magic ring. So we wrap our yarn around our fingers like this, and then we stick the hook into the hole, grab the yarn and pull it through. And then I set up my fingers for crochet. So that's how I have mine, however you have yours, and secure it. Then we're going to chain 3. And I'm going to be working in US terminology now, but if you're using UK, it's very, very easy. If I say a single crochet in US terms, that's a double crochet in UK. If I say a double crochet in US terms, that's a treble crochet in UK. So I'm going to be doing double crochets in US. Okay, so I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into the ring, pull through 2, pull through 2. Okay, so we're going to do 2 double crochets. We're then going to chain 2, then we're going to do 3 double crochet. So this is your very bog standard granny square. Start with groups of 3 double crochets, and separated by 2 chains. I like to do. Different people do different things, but this is my pattern, so so we're going to end up with 4 groups of 3 double crochets. So we can call them granny clusters if we like, with 2 chains in between. This is really an easy pattern. The magic is in the assembly, of course. Right, so I've got 4. You see 1, 2, 3, 4. Just going to do my last chain 2, and then I'm going to pull that end to tighten the hole completely. And I'm going to slip stitch into that, my first chain 3 here, into the top chain of that. So I'm going to go through both of those loops, if I can find them. It's gone. It's gone. There we go. Okay, so that's your first round. Then we're going to turn. The reason we turn is because it stops the granny squares going wonky. And then I'm going to do a stacked DC. If you prefer, you can just do a chain 3, but this is a stacked DC. So I insert my hook into the chain 2 space, grab my yarn and pull it through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through 2. So that's like a single crochet. I'm then going to insert my hook into that bar there. You can see, yarn over and pull through, so you've got 2 hook loops again, and then yarn over and pull through both of them, and that basically creates like a double crochet. And then I'm going to do 2 more double crochet to finish off those 3, and we're going to chain 2, and we're going to do 3 more double crochet into that very same chain 2 space. So in that space we've got 6 double crochets separated by 2 chains. Okay, just like that. And then we're going to carry on that around. We're not going to do a chain in this now. We're just going to go straight into the next chain 2 space and do 3 more double crochets. And then chain 2 and 3 more double crochets into that corner space. So we're now creating the corners. Okay, you can see it coming together. So then we go straight, skip that granny cluster, and we're going to go straight into that next chain 2 space without any chains with our next 3 double crochets. Then we're going to chain 2. And then we're going to go again with 3 more double crochets into that very same space. And that's 3 of the sides done. Oh, we don't chain there. I nearly chained. Woo! Nearly did it wrong. Straight into that next chain 2 space with our 3 double crochets. Then chain 2. And then our 3 more double crochets into that same space. So that has reached the end, so then we're just going to slip stitch into that first stitch to finish that round. There you go, that's 2 rounds done already. So now we are going to turn our work, and as I said before, you can either do a stacked double crochet, which I showed you, or you can do chain 3. So I'm going to do a stacked one again. And then we're going to do a spike DC. So what you want to do is yarn over like a normal DC, and then instead of going around in the space, which isn't chain space, it's just a space between the 2 granny clusters, we're going to go all the way down to the row 1, round 1, and we're going to go into the top of that middle stitch. You can see that there? So I've gone into that middle stitch all the way around, so your yarn wraps all the way over. And the trick is not to pull too tight, because you don't want it to go baggy. And then you just grab your yarn over, pull through 2. And that's just that middle stitch each time. So this double crochet now is just a normal double crochet into the space. Okay. And then we're going to do our corners just like we've done before. So we go straight into the corner space here, and we're going to do our 3 double crochet, chain 2, and 3 double crochet, all in that same corner space. Then we're going to move across to this gap along the side between the 2 granny clusters, and we're going to do a double crochet, and then we're going to do our spike. So I'll show you again. You yarn over and we go into there, into that stitch there, and we wrap our yarn and we stick our hook all the way through the back, grab the yarn, pull it through and up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then we do a normal DC double crochet for the next one. Then we're to our corner again. So this is just the same now. We're repeating around. We're doing our 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets also in that same corner space. And then again to the middle of the next side, we do a double crochet first, and then we do our spike. So we're going into that one down there, pull it up, pull through 2, pull through 2. Getting in a tangle as usual. So I'm on to the next corner, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, all in the chain 2 space. And then the next middle, this is the last side that we're on, so we do 1 double crochet, and then we're going to do our spike, going down into that round 1, yarn all the way over, not tight, nice and loose, and pull it through. Another DC, and then our final corner, just as we've done before. Try not to get the yarn in a tangle. Right, so there we have it. That's our last one. So then we're just going to join into that very first stitch in the top and pull through, and then you can fasten off. So there is my square. So what you need to do is you need to make 6 squares for each slipper. So if you're making a pair of slippers, you will need to make 12 of these squares. And then I will show you now how to make the triangle, which you will also need to make 1 of for each slipper. Okay, so we are going to make a magic ring to start with, just as we did for our squares. Okay, and secure it. And then we are going to do 3 chains, which counts as a DC, and 2 DC. So it's very similar so far. So that's our first group of 3 DCs. Then we are going to chain 2 and do 3 more DC into that magic ring. And then we stop at that point. So we're going to tighten our ring and we're going to turn. So now it's slightly different. We're going to do a stack DC in that very first stitch, or if you don't like a stack DC, do 3 chains. And then we're also going to do 2 double crochets into that first stitch. Then we're going to skip to the middle without doing any chains. So we skip to this chain 2 space, and we're going to do our 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and 3 more double crochets. Oops. Okay, so then what we do is we skip to the very last stitch, which is our chain from the first round, and we're going to do 3 double crochets into the top of that chain. So make sure you find the top of it. Or not. This is me just crocheting too tight. So we're going to do 3 into here. And that is the end of round 2. You can see the triangle shape is coming together. So then we turn our work and we do, again, we do a stack DC and 2 DCs into that first stitch. Right, we move over to this next space here, and we're going to do a DC in it, and then we're going to do a spiked stitch. So this looks a bit different because there's only 2, so it's not the middle one, it's the second. Well, it's still the middle, but the first one's got all those 3 in it. So you can do your spiked stitch into that double crochet stitch there, followed by another double crochet just into the normal stitch. Then we get to our middle, so we're going to do our 3DC, chain 2 and another 3DC into that middle chain 2 space. And then we're going to go to here, and we're going to do a double crochet followed by that spike stitch. So again, you look at your 3, 1, 2, 3 there, so it's going to be this white bit that we're going to go into for our spike. Put it over the top. And then a final DC in that space. And then we've got our last 3 DC into the very last stitch, which is the chain. So that's just as before. And there we go. That is our triangle. So just a bit of a recap. We are making 2 triangles and 12 squares for a pair of slippers. And then I'm going to show you how to assemble it. So go ahead and make that up, and I'll see you when you're ready. Okay, so I have now made all of my squares and my 2 little triangles. So I've got 6, ooh, stuck to my finger. I've got 6 of each for each slipper, and what we're going to do is we are going to join them together. So I've laid them out like this in this pattern, which is what we will need for joining them. Now, it's quite a clever way to join the squares together to make a slipper, but you can. I like to try and join them as many in a row as possible without having to cut my yarn and restart. So I do it in a specific way. But if you don't want to do that, then you can just join them all like this and then join them round. So I'll show you how I do it, and I'll show you what they're going to look like. So what they're going to look like is, this one is going to join over here. So this is going to be the toe of the slipper. This one folds in half around the side, as does this one. And you can see now it's kind of looking a bit like the slipper. And then this is the back. So this one goes like this around the back of the heel. And then we have our one triangle, which goes on either side. So it either goes on this side or it goes on this side, which will join on like that. Somehow that goes there, join on like that. So that is what you're aiming for. And how I like to, lost my pattern now, that's not right, like that. So you've got 1, 2, 3 across like that. So how I like to do it is I start here and I join this one, then along here, then along here, then along here. Then I join these two together like this for the heel. Then I go along this seam and along this seam. Then I join this seam here over to there. Okay, so that's that bit there. So that's that seam. And then I join this seam here. I join down here. And then everything will be joined together apart from this seam here, which you just need to do separately, and your triangle, which you need to add at the end on either side. So we're going to, well, you can seam them together however you like. I like to use the slip stitch join, which adds a little bit to your slipper. So if you're on the smaller side, then you might want to think about using a whip stitch instead. But for me, the slip stitch join is what I prefer. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to work with my right sides together, folded like that, and I'm going to slip stitch across the seam. So my round one, which has got the tail still, that's the back of the work, the wrong side, and then the other side is the right side. So I've just dropped my hook on the floor. Ooh, sorry about that. So I'll show you how I do the slip stitch join, and then I will let you get on with joining. So I'm just going to start here. And I'm going to just go through one loop each side. So I'm going to start in the chain. So just one chain of the chain 2, and put my hook through both of those and pull through my yarn. Let's just go a bit closer in. So I'm just going to chain 1 to secure it, and then I'm going to just slip stitch, so quite loosely. So I'm going to go into, of the 2 loops, I'm going to go into the one closest to me on this, on the piece nearest to me, and the loop furthest away. So 1 loop for each side, and this makes a really nice join. So really keep it nice and loose. You don't want to pucker up your seam. So we're going into the loop closest to me, so the front loop, and then into the back loop of the piece furthest away. That is the best way to explain it. And just grab your yarn and pull it all the way through. So I know this seaming is slightly confusing, but it honestly will make sense when you get going with it. And if you're not sure, have a look at the pattern, the written pattern, and it's got the diagrams. Right, so I've got to the end of that one. I'm going to go through that the first chain of the 2 chains. So then I'm going to go back to my layout and lay it down. You can see the seam. I really like that detail on the seam. If you don't like that, do it some different way. So you can see now I've got to this point. So now I'm going to join on this one. So I'm just going to fold that over like that, and I'm going to carry on into the next chain and continue like that. So I'm not going to make you watch me doing a slip stitch join of every single piece, because that's really boring, but I think you kind of get the hang of it, hopefully. It does make sense when you get going with it. I feel like I've got an extra loop there. Everyone makes mistakes, right? Doesn't matter. We'll just skip it past and we'll be fine. Oh dear. So that's that one done now. I'll just show you what it's looking like. So I'm just going, every time I'm going to lie it down back into the pattern just to work out where I've got to and where I'm going next and which one I'm joining on next. So it's like that, and I've joined on there and I've got to here. So now we're going to do this one. So I fold that over and join that one, and then I'll come back and my hook will be here. So then we join this one like that, and then we'll be here, and then we're going to start joining the bits together. So then we're going to fold this one over and join up there. Then we're going to join that one, this one, like this. And then, as I said before, we're going to start joining these ones over. So we do that seam, and then we join that seam. And then we just have this one seam at the top, at the top to do. So I'm going to do a few more seams and then I'll come back and check how you're getting on. Okay, so I've made a bit more progress now. I have joined this bit round the back of the foot, and so I started here, I joined down here, then I joined these 2 together. They're off the screen. So I started at the top, went wiggly down, then I joined these 2 together, then I joined this seam, and then I joined this on. So I'm here now. So now what we are going to do is think about where these bits go. So this goes like this. So we're going to join this seam now here. I'm just going to fold that round like that and join that on. So it gets slightly twisted doing it, but if you lay it flat, you can work out what bit you're doing at which point, if your yarn doesn't get all twisted inside. Right, let's try that again. So we are going to maybe, so that goes there, that goes there. So if you just fold that over, you can see which seam goes together. So it's that seam that I'm trying to do now. As I said, if it's too complicated, just do one bit at a time, but it's quite good to do it all in one go. I kind of set myself a challenge of working out how I could make it work without having to cut my yarn at all, but there was one that I just couldn't work out. If you can figure that out, then let me know. And there's your challenge for today, as well as making slippers, obviously. Now I say they're slippers, they are like slipper sock style slippers. I find them nice and cozy. I always have cold feet, so having some extra warmth is always good. Right, so that's the end of this square, like that. So I know this is like starting to look really weird, but if you always start at the point and get that point joined. So this is the flap that we're going to join last, that we haven't got to yet. So we're going to do this one now, this seam down here, and then that is it, apart from that seam and joining in our triangle onto one of the sides. Okay, so let's do this one. I just whip through that quickly, and then I can show you the triangle after that. Okay, so I finished joining that, and I've also joined this last seam along here now, so you can really see that it looks like a slipper here. So our triangle piece is going to fit in either on this side here, for one of the slippers, and then on the other side for the other slipper. So it doesn't matter which one you put it on for the first slipper, of course, but it does matter after that. So okay, I'm just going to join my triangle in now. So I've got it here, and this is so it's going to go like this, because this is the right side, this is the wrong side with the tail. So you need to kind of tuck it inside to get the seam coming on the right side, if that makes sense. And it seems a bit smaller, but that's because it hasn't got the chain twos at the end. But if you just work straight into the double crochet, then it will be fine. So I'm just joining on my yarn. And then I'm going to just do my slip stitch join in exactly the same way, going across. And just double check that that's coming through correctly. Yes. Got a join there. Just make sure where you've joined your yarn, or where you've fastened off, you don't accidentally slip stitch into that instead, because that's not a proper stitch. So when we get to the corner, we've got our chains, but they already have chains into them, but just find the same corresponding 2 chain loops and carry on around your triangle. Got lots of ends poking up here. Nearly there, nearly there. Okay, so that's my triangle joined on. And you can leave your yarn still fastened on there to do the edging if you like. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like now. So you can turn your slipper the right way around. Obviously you've got all the ends to sew in, but that's okay, you can do that afterwards. And there you have it, one cozy slipper. Yeah, that's it. Lovely. So we're just going to then do a little edging around the outside. So we're going to do single crochet border. I'm just going to do one round, but if you want this opening to be a bit smaller, a bit tighter, then you can carry on and do a couple of rounds. So I'm just carrying on from where I finished slip stitching, and I'm just going to chain one, and then I'm just going to work single crochets into each stitch around. So we're working kind of into the ends and the edges of the granny stitches and the ends of the chains, so just, and into the magic circles and all sorts, so just kind of place them evenly across all the way around, and it will look fine, and it will really neaten off that edge for a finish. Some of them you'll find tricky to get into, but just keep going and you'll be fine. It doesn't need to be very, whoops, keep falling out, very precise, because it will just neaten up. As long as you keep going like evenly around, don't go like too deep down into a stitch or anything, and you might have some long ends like that I've got that will need sewing off at some point, weaving in. But just to keep going. So if you want to have this pattern as a PDF to keep forever and to print out and write notes on it, whatever you like to do with your patterns, then you can find the link below in the description for that. If you would like to just view the pattern for free on the blog, then you can do that as well. All I ask is that you do stay on the blog and don't print it out from the blog, because I get a few little pennies from ad revenue for you being on the blog, which really helps me out, because being a crochet designer is not the easiest. So you'll find some of the edging around is really easy, because you're just going into the tops of the granny clusters, but other bits, as I said before, you're going into the edges. So I'm nearly all the way around now, because I'm on the last quick bit. Just go into that chain. And that chain is at the end. One more. And then I'm just going to do a slip stitch to join to my first single crochet. And there you go. Fasten off, weave in all your ends, and then you can enjoy wearing your cozy slipper socks. Obviously, if you want to block it, you can block it at any point, but it's not essential. They're only supposed to be cozy little number to wear around the house. So I also wanted to say that if you want to make yours smaller or bigger, I think I might have mentioned this before, you can add an extra row of single crochet around, but they do come out quite big as well, and they will stretch, so I really think they will fit women and men of generally average sized feet. So give them a go and see how you get on. Okay, so I have sewn in all my ends now on my slippers, so you can see there's the triangle part of it, and it's asymmetrical, so it sits like that on your foot. And I've done my single crochet border all the way around to neaten off the foot opening. And as I said, you can add more rows of single crochet, or you can do single crochet 2 together to make the closure, the opening smaller, closure, what am I talking about? But I also have another alternative for you. So I have made this one into a boot style, so it's exactly the same up to where we've got to, and then I've added on a cuff, and that makes it nice and cozy, and they're quite cute like that, I think. So I'm just going to show you now how to do that. So what you're going to do is you are going to join your yarn into anywhere. I like to join it into the V of the triangle, but it doesn't actually matter. So you've got your slipper right side facing now, it's the right way around, and ideally all your ends are sewn in, and we are going to chain 8. So we chained 8, and then we're going to turn, and we're going to do a single crochet into each of those chains. So you should have 7 when you get back down. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then a last one in that final chain, which has gone all baggy. And then we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch on our slipper. And then we're going to turn, and we're just going to work backwards and forwards. We're going to be doing single crochet into the back loops of each of the stitches up. So you just insert your hook into that back loop of the stitch only, so not into the front loop. And do your 7 stitches. If you can keep hold of your yarn, which apparently I cannot. And then when you get to the top, you chain 1 and go back down the other side, doing a single crochet into the back loops again. Oh my goodness, don't know what's wrong with me. You're having a laugh now. Right, so when you get to the end, we're then going to do slip stitch into the next 2 stitches on your slipper. If you want your cuff to be even tighter, then slip stitch into 3. So I did 2 for this one. It's not tight at all, it's nice and loose, but I don't want anything tight on my foot in the evening, just a loose thing, so I made mine nice and loose. But if you want it tighter, just slip stitch into 3 stitches instead of into 2, okay? And just keep repeating that, so you're doing your 7 single crochets in the back loops up, then you turn and chain 1, do 7 single crochets back down again in the back loops, and then you slip stitch into those 2 stitches on your slipper edge. And there you have it. There is your beautiful crochet slippers. I really hope you've enjoyed watching make them. I hope you're going to wear them. I'm going to show mine off in a minute, and I'm going to wear them all the time. So thanks for watching, and I will see you again soon for another tutorial.